Welcome to Goats Gardens and Healthy Tips. It's September 9th today, and the garden is kind of winding down. So I thought I would do a little video about what worked really well in the garden this year and what struggled, and what I preserved this year. And we'll just kind of take a look around and do a little end of the year garden review. Before we do that, I should talk about the weather a little bit, because the weather makes a big difference as far as what's growing in the garden. So we had a really wet summer this summer. We've had a really dry, I'm going to say this last week has been dry. Probably the first week we've had this whole summer since spring where we've had dry and we haven't had rain coming within 2 to 3 days or something like that. So it's been a very wet summer, which can create a lot of fungal problems and such like that. And we've also had a lot of humidity and a lot of overcastness. So not a lot of sun. So all those things can play into the whole growth of the garden. Just like last year, we had a really hot, dry summer. So some things really thrived in that, and then other things didn't. So anyways, I just wanted to add that in there because for this climate, it was much cooler than normal, much wetter, and overcast. Right now, we're having 80 degrees and beautiful, but it is now the end of summer. So we'll go in and we'll do a little review. All right. Sometimes I probably let the garden go a little bit longer, but I'm really ready to kind of get it wrapped up here this year. We've got a wedding coming up in a couple of weeks, actually here at our property, and I just kind of want to get this done and get it cleaned up a little bit. So I don't do a lot of weeding at this time of the year. As you can tell, there's a lot of weeds here because I'm just too busy picking and processing, and there just isn't time for doing that. I keep on it up pretty good on it in the summer, but it kind of goes downhill at the end of the year. So over here where these weeds are, I had the potatoes, and I also had those bags of potatoes. If you remember, if you saw the video of what I had going in the garden. So I did have the bagged potatoes, and I felt like I had a really good harvest from those 4 bagged potatoes. So I'm going to start with my potato bags. So I've got a couple of smaller ones here, and then I've got the larger ones over here. So let's dig those up first. Okay, so always exciting to see what comes out of the potato bags or potatoes. Could be nothing, could be a lot. So there is one of the small potato bags. So you had 2 small bags. Riley, were you helping with potatoes, honey? You're such a good girl. 2 small grow bags and 5. I can't remember the size of them. If they were 5 gallon and then 10 gallon, I believe. 5 of the 10 gallon. Anyways, I feel pretty happy about this. I've got almost a whole bucket of the white potatoes, and then we got some red potato too. So I think that's pretty good for the grow bag. So tomorrow I will get the potatoes, start digging them out of the garden. So I feel like that was really successful. And those were just leftover potato seeds that I didn't have room for in the garden. So I still made good use of them, and I still got a lot of potatoes. So I had the red and the russet and the golden potatoes in here. They were all excellent, and I've been really happy with those. I decided to grow more potatoes this year because that's something that we eat a lot of, and so I'm trying to change my thoughts about growing more of what we eat and not just some things that I like to grow because they're kind of fun to grow. So anyways, potatoes worked out really good. And as far as preservation, I put up in our loft of our garage, I made a little rack. Actually, these were some racks that we use in our trailer to haul things that need to go flat on top of the trailer. And I just put some chicken wire and some hardware wire over the top of them so that the potatoes could air out up there, and put them on some sawhorses. And that's where I laid my potatoes out, up in the loft part of our garage. And that has worked out really good. I still have them up there. So potatoes, very successful, and we've been eating them. They're delicious. Okay, and then here we had a row of collards right here. The collards are always great. They just are so fun to grow because they're so beautiful and they're so delicious. And I always grow way too many of them, but I love collards. I also can give them to the chickens, and I give a little bit to the bunnies. So I just feel like they're just such a great thing to grow. And no regrets on that. My only thing will be is I probably need to just cut down and not grow so many, because I always grow too many. But the way I preserve the collards is I cut them off, and then I always bathe everything in some vinegar water and then rinse, and then I cut them up and blanch them for a couple of minutes, and then freeze them. So in the past, I've just kind of put them in little Ziploc baggies and froze them. I use them in soups and stews and stir fries all the time. They're really, really healthy. They're one of the best detox foods, and I love the taste of them. I also put them in my egg bake. But this year, I had seen some other people on YouTube that talked about how they form them into little balls, or you can use a measuring cup or something, and then put them on cookie sheets and freeze them in that way, and then throw them in a bag and freeze them. And I thought, that's a great idea. So that's what I did this year. And then I put some in just like a gallon bag all together, so you could just take out one. I call them hockey pucks, as needed. But I also put like 2 per press and seal vacuum sealer bags, because that way they will last for a long time. They can last for a couple of years in those. And so I did that with those too. So I'm really happy about the collards, and I'm happy about the preservation of those. Okay, I had some cucumbers here. There is a couple left on the vine here. Here's a little guy right here. And I have to say, the cucumbers this year were excellent. Oh, there's another one right there. So I'll just, pick the rest of these cucumbers, but as you can see, the vines are all dying out, and so I'll be able to clear that out of here. The cucumbers were just wonderful. I haven't had good cucumbers for quite a few years. I'm going to say like 4 years, and so I was really happy with the cucumbers this year. I had these, which were the more of a slicing cucumber, and then I had I think they're called Beet Alpha, and then I had the pickling cucumbers. I'll show you those vines, and all of them were excellent, and I made a lot of pickles. So I was really happy about that. I made dill pickles, and I made sour pickles, and I keep thinking the cucumbers are going to be done. And then I come out here and there's some more on the vine, and so I just picked some last night, and I made some more jars of a refrigerator pickle. So that is the cucumbers. Here are the small cherry tomatoes right here. I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 plants, I think, of cherry tomatoes here. And I would say that those were like, okay. There's some cherry tomatoes there I need to pick yet. I mean, they were good, but they just weren't as bountiful as last year. And I think that's probably because of the wet weather, constant rain, lack of sun that we had this summer. So I'm going to say they were like medium, because they were good, but they just weren't as bountiful as last summer. And you can tell my marigolds are still like growing sky high here. I've been reluctant to pull them out because the bees have been really enjoying them. So anyways, but they're going to be coming out. In amongst this, I have the basil, and there's basil on the other side. The basil was excellent as well. And I preserved a lot of basil using the freeze dryer. So that would be just picking, rinsing again in the vinegar water, and then taking the leaves and putting them on the freeze dryer trays and freeze drying, and then crumbling, and really they're just really easy to crumble up into a fine powder in the end, and then putting them in jars and vacuum sealing them. So like in a pint jar, put them in a pint jar, and then some in a little bit smaller for usage. But if I put it in a pint jar and vacuum sealed it, then they're going to stay fresh, and then as needed I can put them in a smaller little spice jar. All right, down here I had a lot of parsley planted. Parsley, excellent. Sometimes that hasn't been as bountiful in this year. So I planted a lot this year, and this year it was really, really great. So the way I preserved that, 2 ways. I froze several, probably a couple good gallon bags, stuffed full, maybe more. And then I freeze dried quite a bit. And there again, same way as I did the basil. And I put those in to like quart jar, mason jar, vacuum sealed it, and I can take out a small jar's worth as needed. All right, then on the edge here, we'll come on the edge and then we'll go back through the middle. The tomatoes, there's a few tomatoes left on the vine. Most of the vines are drying up. I feel like the vines dried up early this year. Last year, the vines were still going until frost, and I was harvesting green tomatoes at the frost so that I could try to save some. That's just not going to happen this year because there's only a few tomatoes left on the vines because the vines have been drying up. And there's some of those pretty yellow ones. I just love those. Anyways, I would say the tomatoes were once again medium, not like bountiful like I had last year. I had them coming out my ears last year, but very good and plenty. Like I just freeze dried my whole last batch of tomatoes. Just freeze dried yesterday, and sliced tomatoes. Also freeze dried some of the little cherry tomatoes, and then I have been making a lot of salsa. And I'm canning the salsa, and I also just can pints of just tomatoes, like chopped tomatoes or, a little bit cut up tomatoes that I can use for cooking. So the tomatoes and then we've been sharing them too. So tomatoes have been great, but just not as great as last year, once again. Oh, and I have to say about the tomatoes this year too, I put more calcium spray on them this year. And I really think that was of a benefit because a lot of times, and see how we have the dark spots and everything here, that came on early in the season because of all the dampness that we have. But a lot of times with the tomatoes, I'm throwing out ones that just kind of go bad before usage type of thing, or there's maybe some bad ones on the vine. I did not I'm going to say maybe 3 tomatoes that were not good this year. They were maybe not as many as last year, but they were like excellent shaped tomatoes. And here's my row of celery down the row here. Wonderful celery. Love the celery. And obviously I don't need that much celery, but I love growing it, and it's been excellent. So you can see I've been cutting off and using, and there's still just tons and tons, so you just keep cutting off and it just keeps growing. I have freeze dried to preserve celery this year, and once again doing it just like I did the herbs, and I have been also freeze drying the leaves as well, and then I put it in quart mason jars and vacuum seal it, and use that for soups and stews and stir fry. It tastes great, it tastes fresh, and it's like a great way to preserve that so that I'm not buying celery this winter we do a lot of soup and stew in the winter, so I'm not buying it for that. Then I had a whole nother batch of parsley down here, so same thing with that. Excellent. There's an oregano plant right there. My oregano was medium this year, not as great as last year, but good enough. I'm going to do another freeze-dry batch of that, so I've been freeze-drying that. In there, I like to put that in with the chicken, give that in the chicken feed sometimes to help them with health, health promotion. Okay, then the pepper plants that I had along here, these banana peppers are just so easy to grow, and they are just like so bountiful. So I have peppers coming out of our ears, and I've been sharing them, using them in cooking, and I've been freeze drying them. So I have several quart jars of freeze dried peppers for cooking this winter, and they'll last a long time because I vacuum sealed them. So also I did some jars where I had green salad onions growing along the edge of the tomatoes here, and those were like wonderful and bountiful. And so what I did was I freeze dried those, and then I mixed in the jar the green onions and the peppers. I also made some little jars up for gifts that had freeze dried peppers, freeze dried onions, and freeze dried cherry tomatoes, and then freeze dried eggs, 3 eggs worth in there. And I called it an omelet in the jar. and I made those up for a gift, and so I thought that was kind of a fun thing to do. And so the person just needs to add water, and then, you know, you can fry it up. Okay, and then in the middle of this garden, I had the summer squash and zucchini, and those are all great. So still got a few little summer squash growing here, and I believe I have a few zucchini. They're coming in much slower now. There's still some coming in here. Got a couple of bigger ones in here I saw when I came out here this morning. I picked a couple and left a couple. So, and I have a few left in my fridge. But you know, zucchini, if it's growing great, and it has been great this year. One thing that I really tried to do, which you can tell I'm not doing that now because it's end of the season. There's the big guy that I need to pick right here. But one thing I tried to do this year was keep the branches, keeping the stems and leaves that are on the ground trimmed off, and coming in every couple days and pruning any branches that I need to prune off, because there's some big ones in here that I do need to try. There's another one right there, because that helps keep the plant healthier. And that was really good this year. Just really healthy zucchini and healthy plants. So as you can tell now, they're getting powdery, and you know, it's end of the season, so that's that. But okay, so preservation with zucchinis. What I do is I skin them, chop them, and freeze them. Put them in vacuum sealed the bags with the vacuum seal, and freeze them. And then I use them in soup, in stew, in stir fry, and when I'm making dog food. And that works out excellent. So I have saved those. I also put some in the freeze dryer as slices, and you can put a little sea salt on them, and they can be like a little crunchy snack. So I did that with the zucchini as well. Okay, so that is kind of that. There was some more parsley over here, and that's all dying now. So I just had done that last batch, and now I'm just going to pull this up and let that be done. Let's see, potatoes. Let's see if there's anything else over here. I told you I had the green onions there, and those are done, and those were great. Okay, we got to go over to our new area here that we put up this summer, which was so great with the trellis system here. And this was pumpkin, winter squash, and some cucumbers on the end. And this was great. I've taken most of the pumpkin in. The pumpkin, I would say, is good. I had probably about 14 pumpkins here. There's a few more out here that I have to get yet, but I'm trying to take them as they are ripe so that critters and bugs and stuff don't get at them. So, and then I'm going to start, I've given one to the chickens, and I cooked one up. I put one in dog food, so I have used some, and then I'm going to cook up the rest. And what I do with those is I cook them either in the roaster or in the oven or in my pressure cooker, and clean, take the insides, and then I put it in a bowl and use my mixer, mix it up, puree it, and then freeze it in bags with 1.5 cups. So 1.5 cups is the amount I use when I make muffins. And so then I just know that each bag has 1.5 cups in it. And whether I'm using it for muffins or to make something else, I know that that's how much is in there. So that's what I do with the pumpkin. All right, and then okay, here's some cucumber. So the cucumber were so great. Look here's the little guy right here. I have been out here picking cucumber, I swear, like almost every day. I've made so many pickles, and I've shared so much cucumber. And like I said, this is the first year in probably 4 years that I have had good cucumber. So I'm super excited about that. Maybe it was the wetness of the summer, or maybe it's this trellis system that just kept them up and everything. We had a problem early in the year with bunnies getting through my fencing system, which I was so disappointed about, because my fence, we put up, I think this is the 4th year now, 3rd or 4th year. It's been so great. And then I put the chicken wire on to keep the little bunnies out, but those little bunnies crawled and dug underneath the chicken wire. And we had such an overflow of baby bunnies and rabbits this summer. Everybody's been talking about it, like bunnies and rabbits everywhere. And Oh, look at, there's some more cucumbers over here that I missed yesterday, so I'll pick those for eating. And the chickens love the cucumbers too. And the bunnies get some in their bunny food as well. But the bunnies have been so overflow this summer. That has been my main garden predator this summer. They're so darn cute, and I love them, but I don't want them eating all my gardens. So next year, I'm going to have to go down in the ground and put something down in the ground around the edge of my garden and hook it on to my fencing system so that those little stinkers aren't crawling underneath there. I've never had that happen before, and everybody's talking about it. And like when I go outside, let's say like at midnight to take the dogs out to do their business before bed, there are bunnies everywhere. Like literally, I could see 20 bunnies out everywhere. So hi bunnies this summer. Okay, so that is the cucumber, and then I had winter squash in here as well. Here's one right here. I just picked most of those. So I would say those were ready early this year because it's only September 9th and most of them I've picked already. And those were really, they taste wonderful. I've cooked up a few of them already. I would like to have more than what I had this year. So next year I'll probably put more plants of that in here. I'm not sure what I'll do. Maybe I'll move the cucumbers to the other trellis on the other garden. But anyways, all that was good. Okay, so we'll go over to the other garden. And the squash, I haven't preserved that because we pretty much are just able to eat that. Last year, my neighbor gave me a bunch of extra squash from his garden, and I did peel it, chunk it, blanch it, like put it in square chunks, blanched it and froze it, and we had quite a few bags of that, so that was very nice of him to share that. Over here we had on the edge, way over on the edge, I had the onions. I'm going to say not so great. My green onions were great. My red and yellow onions, they're good, but I just did not get the big quantity that I wanted to get. And I have to say that I think they just got too wet and they were crowded in here. So next year I need to put them where they have more space, and maybe it'll be drier next summer. This is my trellis that I had dill on, and the dill worked out super nice for making pickles, so that worked out good. I had garlic here. Garlic, I have to say, was not so great. My brother-in-law gave me some garlic. His were like 4 times bigger than mine, and I don't know. I haven't grown good garlic, and I'm not sure why. I've never really grown good garlic, and I'm not sure why about that. So that's something for me to work on. All right, the chard over here is, I haven't cut it for quite some time now. I have so much frozen, so I'm just coming out to cut it when we are going to eat some, or when I'm sharing it with the chickens out there. So it's kind of overgrown and stuff, but it was excellent. It was just wonderful, excellent, beautiful leaves, beautiful stalks, and just really good. I've preserved so much. I might come in and do another batch of preserving, but if I don't, I don't. I mean, it's just been wonderful. I'm going to let it be here until frost so that I can keep sharing with the chickens and stuff. And then I also had planted some collards down here. So there I go again with my obsession of collards. Anyways, next year I'm not going to crowd them because they just get so huge, as you can see, and that was last year as well. So I had planted rutabaga next to them here, and let's see if I can find yep. And the rutabaga did not have good success this year, and probably because I just crowded them too much. But last year I kind of did, and I had excellent huge rutabaga. So anyways, just wasn't a good rutabaga year. But that's okay, because I have a bunch frozen from last year that I haven't used yet. So, oh, here's a nice one right here. There we go. I'm going to have a few at least. Okay, well, anyways, they're delicious. I love them. But next year, I'm not going to crowd those either. The other thing I'm not going to crowd so much is the potatoes. What did I put next to those? Oh, that's the other bunny problem we had. Okay, I'll talk about that. with the beans here. So these empty spaces right here were kidney beans and black beans, and those were good. I've got a big bucket of them that needs to get shelled, and they were dried and I took them in. But the problem we had was the bunnies again, and I had had planted some black garbanzo beans, which I was so excited about, something new, and they were full of their fruit and their beans, their peas, or whatever you want to call them. Came out here, I was looking at them, came out the next morning, the bunnies had come in and completely eaten them down. Everything was eaten on them. It was so disappointing. And I'd see the little bunnies in here when I come in the morning. And then they started eating my kidney beans, and they ate all of my bush beans in the other garden. I had a row of bush beans, and they ate all of those. So that was kind of disappointing, but you know, what can I say? I just need to make my fencing better because the rabbits are going to be there, and there's not much I can do about that. Okay, I had another celery here, and totally unnecessary because I have so many, but it was ones that I grew from seed, and I just planted them because I had them. So another excellent growing item this year. The carrots have been good. I got 2 rows of those. I'm just using them as needed right now. And if it gets to be frost and I still have some, then I will, dig up the rest of them and freeze them, blanch them, freeze them, skin them, blanch them, freeze them, cut them. But right now we're just using them as we use them. And the tops of them, the green tops, I give some of those to the rabbits. They really like them, so I like just having carrots in the garden even for that. Let's see. Beans. Oh, I had a random potato plant down here that came up from last year, and I harvested that. Was huge potatoes. Okay, so here I have tomatoes, and there's still a few tomatoes here that are going to be picked off, but I had several varieties this year. I don't even know if I can remember all of them. I think there was a yellow Jubilee, and there was another yellow one, which I can't remember the name because it is just this huge yellow beautiful tomato, and those were great. I had Rutherfords, I had beefsteak, I had these Romas, which the Romas were really bountiful this year. In fact, even in the grow bags, that's where I put the extra tomato Romas in the grow bags. They did just wonderful. And so anyways, the tomatoes were good this year. As I'm saying, they just weren't as good as last year. So more tomatoes over here. Then I had the beans. The beans have been not great this year. I told you about the bunnies eating all my bush beans, and then these are my pole beans. And I think I got Kentucky pole beans this year. I think I normally get Blue Lake, but I don't know what happened to my pole beans. Like, they were kind of struggling from the beginning, and they just like all of a sudden turned kind of a fallish color on their leaves. Honestly, the leaves look a little bit greener now than they've looked all summer. And the Asian beetles come in and just destroy the top part here. This is my 3rd year of Asian beetles now. Never had them before. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. And then I still got some beans on here. Like last year, I froze 100 quarts of green beans. I had so many green beans. This year, I have froze, I'm going to say 12 bags of green beans. We've been eating them, and I shared some, but I mean, what a difference, you know. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about my beans next year. I considered, because of the Asian beetles, like just doing bush beans that I can manage and powder them more with the diatomaceous earth and stuff. And I don't know. I got to think about it. Or I might move them to the other garden. And I'm not sure why they just never did much this year. It seems like all of a sudden they just kind of turned an unhealthy color and were not real productive this year. But we've still been eating them. I'm still thankful for them. just like usually the green beans are the easiest thing ever to grow, and this year they just were not like that. So I gotta say that they were not so great. And then I had another set of cucumbers here that grew great. Like I said, all my cucumbers were great this year, and just this little area of cucumbers, I got tons of cucumbers off. This is the Mayflower pole bean that I still have here, and I'm waiting for those to dry. I can see that they're starting to dry here because these are a dry bean and I've never grown them before, so I'm kind of excited to see. I'm going to open one up right now. What? Oh, yep, so they're just a nice little dry bean. I'm kind of excited to see how they taste. So that's that. Okay, and then I got my big girl rosemary down here, who I've had for a while, and wonderful, growing well. I have taken that and freeze dried a few trays of that, so I have plenty of that I have preserved. So that's kind of what I got going here in the garden. Oh, one more thing is I had the lettuce growing here. So my lettuce is not so great either. I really like this salad bowl lettuce, and I think it did better last year again. Just didn't do as well this year. I'm not great at growing lettuce either, and I wish I was better at that, but a couple of things I need to look into some more. So anyways, I would say that the lettuce was not so great, but not that we didn't use it, and not that I didn't have it for my bunny food and stuff like that. It just wasn't as excellent as I wished it to be. Okay, I got one more little oregano plant here, and I think I'm going to save him, put him in the greenhouse this winter, and preserve him over the winter. So that is the vegetable gardens. So all in all, it's an excellent summer, but I just like to kind of think about what I'm going to do different next year, and I might move the tomatoes over here next year where they have more trellis room, all the tomatoes over here, and then move the beans over there, and maybe I'll put the cucumbers over there. I'm not sure. A few things I'm going to change up with that, and then I'm going to give the collards and the chard more space, and the potatoes more space, and the rutabagas more space, the onions more space, and grow less collard and chard because they just produce so much. I think I'm always worried that they're not going to produce and then I won't have enough of them, but because I just like them so much. Okay, that is my 2024 summer garden review. Always enjoy my gardening. It's so much work. It's such a rewarding work though, and I love working with the plants. I love watching everything grow, and then of course the harvesting is a lot of work and the preserving is a lot of work, but what a reward to have those fresh organic vegetables to eat all year round. So I encourage you, if you enjoy gardening, to try new things, but also grow what you like to eat, and then find your ways of preserving that you like to do. So I used to just freeze everything, and now I'm venturing out and I'm doing some canning and I'm doing freeze drying. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer and your fall, and now we can all just start planning our garden for next summer. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and have a wonderful autumn.